We are 48 schools across 14 cities, but together we are one Shawnee mission, and this is our time to shine.
So I'd like to welcome everyone to the very first Shawnee Mission Mic'd Up podcast. My name is Dr. Michelle Hubbard, and I am so honored to serve as the superintendent in the Shawnee Mission School District. Such an amazing community and great things happening here for kids. So I would also like to introduce my co-host, Dr. Jeremy Higgins, who is the Director of Secondary HR. Jeremy, take just a few minutes to kind of explain what you do for the district, and maybe even you've been here a long time, so a little bit about your past.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me on. I'm very honored to serve as the co-host on Shawnee Mission Mic'd Up. Certainly going to be an awesome thing as we launch this year. So, as you mentioned, I serve as the Director of Secondary HR right now. I'm starting my 18th year in Shawnee Mission, which is crazy to think about. I've been fortunate to serve in 3 of the different feeder patterns here in Shawnee Mission. So I spent 10 years at Shawnee Mission East as a teacher, coach, athletic director, assistant principal. Spent a couple years at Shawnee Mission West as an associate principal, 3 years at North as the building principal, and then starting year 3 as director of secondary HR. So it's been a great experience here in Shawnee Mission, as I said, and just really thrilled about starting this podcast and seeing what we can do with it. So.
Yeah, it's really exciting to serve in so many different communities in the Shawnee Mission School District, and I think that makes us so unique, having the 5 different feeder patterns, and to be in 3 of them is really awesome. So,
absolutely. So, Dr. Hubbard, I know as we're launching the podcast, I'm sure some of the listeners are thinking, well, why are we starting this podcast? What's the reason for going this avenue now?
So that's a really great question, and I think that in Shawnee Mission, communication has always been so very important. We think it's so important to be able to communicate with our constituents, make sure people understand and know what's happening on a day in and day out basis. Mostly we love to celebrate the positive things that are happening, but then sometimes we just need to share really important information, crisis information sometimes, unfortunately, but the ability to communicate with as many stakeholders as possible is extremely important. So just a little bit of history, which I think is kind of fun. In Shawnee Mission, we started TV in the early 70s, which was extremely proactive as a school district, especially in the state of Kansas, to have that TV station. Our Facebook and Twitter accounts started in 2009. We started a YouTube channel in 2011, and the Inside magazine started back. The first edition that we could actually find was November 1st, 1992. And at that time, it was a paper version. As you all know now, it has around 2010, it turned into more of a magazine format, and that still comes to families' homes 4 times a year. And so excited about that tradition has continued. But this is just another avenue to reach our different audiences. And for some people, the magazine is great. For some people, social media is great. For walkers and people that commute to work, this podcast might be great. So we just want to be able to reach all avenues of stakeholders that are in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I think we started even a TikTok, even maybe last year. Yeah. So really trying to expand. I know the district is really trying to look at all the avenues of hitting those constituents and getting the news out, all the great things.
I think the TikTok, and we also started an Instagram. I think both of those are great examples of speaking to our student audience as well. Although there's probably as many adults that watch and listen to TikTok as there are students. But I definitely know our kids are very engaged with the TikTok avenue. So. Yeah, so there's a lot going on getting ready for the first day of school. And so in this edition, this episode, we would like to really talk about what it takes to get ready for the first day of a new year. So let's explore that next. What do you think?
That sounds great. Let's do it.
All right, so Dr. Higgins, question for you. Tell me what you think of when you think of the first day of school.
First day of school. Bulletin boards.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
So, my wife, Ashley, taught first grade for 15 years. And so Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into setting up an elementary classroom. I wouldn't know that personally since I was a high school teacher, science teacher, but I always wanted to try to help her in some way get her classroom set up, mainly so she wasn't up at school all the time before her contract actually started. So my contribution at the beginning of every school year or at the end of summer was to go and do her bulletin boards for her. That was the one thing she trusted me with. She picked out the construction paper and the borders, and I just had to staple it all on there. So that beginning of the year for me, I always think bulletin boards for some reason. So,
well, we know that elementary teachers, really all teachers, but when you think about prep for the school year, I was both an elementary principal and a high school principal, and I know the prep is so very different at elementary than it is secondary, but we know they all spend hours and hours, sometimes even all summer long, and people think of teachers working 9 months out of the year, and it's so much more than that. And so I know teachers are really spending hours and hours in their classroom prior to their contract actually starting.
Yeah, and not just the teachers, but it's all those other people as well, family members, their kids are coming up. When I was principal at North, it was exciting to see teachers coming back into the building. That excitement for the new school was starting, but you saw, kids coming up and spouses coming up and all sorts of people coming to help, and just having those people in the building, it really does start to build that excitement for the new school year.
I know this wasn't the start of the school year, but when we opened Deemer at mid-year, and I went and, they were having to prep their rooms like it was the first day of school, and I saw so many kids that came up to volunteer too, to either help their teachers, or in some cases they were children of employees at the building that were there to help. But it really is this, it takes a village kind of concept to get classrooms ready. And speaking of that, that's true across the board in Shawnee Mission with from all aspects, whether you're a parent, a staff member, even bus drivers, everybody. It takes all of us so much, but there's really a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that I don't think people really even understand. And I think I'm going to jump off first with our food service team, because I don't think people really understand the magnitude that goes into prepping meal service for almost 27,000 kids annually. But just a few fun facts, I thought, as we talked to Grace Liss, our food service director, who's amazing, by the way. Think about running 47 restaurants, because in reality, that's kind of what we have, or 47 different spaces where kids receive school meals. And this year we'll serve 587,000 breakfasts to students and a little over 2.6 million school lunches.
That's a lot of school lunches.
It really is, and you don't think about it until you put it into perspective and put those numbers. But just some other fun facts: 112,000 bananas this year, 184,000 oranges, a little over 7,000 pounds of red peppers, 208,000 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Just thinking about the prep of ordering and ensuring that our menus are nutritious and that we meet all the federal guidelines that go along with that. And I think it's really exciting this year. Dr. Higgins, can you help me with the Steve's Meat Market by chance?
Yeah, so Steve's Meat Market is a project that our food service department is launching, where they're buying minimally processed meat from a local producer and processor, and that's Steve's Meat Market. So really trying to take advantage of not only healthier options for our kids, but also looking locally and really trying to use those local businesses and supporting those communities as well. So
that's awesome. That's awesome for our community and for our families.
And food service is just one of there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes, things that people don't even think about. Our kids show up on the first day and there's breakfast for them. We don't think about what goes on behind the scenes. And right along with that, our O&M staffs and our custodial staffs and the prep work that's needed for all of our buildings. I mean, we've got 34 elementary buildings, 5 middle schools, 5 high schools, and all of them require so much work and attention over the summer. A huge shout out to our custodial crews and what they're doing over the summer. I know some of our buildings right now that are undergoing some construction projects maybe don't. There might be a little bit of unease about if they're going to be ready or not, but they'll be in a good spot come that first day of school.
Yeah, it's exciting to drive by the projects and see them, and I definitely have that unease feeling when I drive by some, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how in the world is that going to happen? But they magically somehow make it happen. Another team that spends a lot of time are our school nurses prepping for health needs, and we had the school nurse at Tomahawk reach out and share that she's purchased 1,500 Band-Aids, and she hopes that makes it through the year. But I think even more impressive, and I think this is just the care and passion that our staff members have for our kids, but she has hand-packed over 100 ice packs, just using Ziploc baggies and putting ice in for kids, and she hopes that lasts until October. When you think about just little things that I don't even think people think of, and kindergartners that just really are struggling with that new transition into school, but she shops for additional clothing for kids that may need it for whatever reason, and I just thought that was really shows the passion that not only school nurses but all of our staff have for our kids going into the school year.
Yeah, it shows that heart of our staff members here, which is really cool.
Right.
Big shout out also. I know we saw some tweets about what's going on the first as people get ready for school. Shout out to Michelle Lord, principal over at Corinth. So she sent some pictures in on Twitter of her going out and doing her kindergarten visits and visiting, making that personal connection that we know is so important with her incoming kindergartners, which was super cool to see on Twitter.
And that's a fun tradition they've done there for years. Also, at Corinth, the veteran teachers take the new teachers on a shopping trip for supplies for their classroom. So that's really a fun tradition at Corinth as well.
Yeah, being in HR, as we bring in 250 new teachers into the Shawnee Mission School District, we love to see our new teachers building those connections and those relationships with those veteran teachers. It's so very important as they start their career in many cases, but also just starting their career here in Shawnee Mission, to be able to have someone to lean on, and starting that early on is just it's really cool to see.
And it's great for retention, right?
Absolutely.
So that's important too. I also saw a tweet about the rolling out the red carpet at Shawnee Mission South, which is a longtime tradition there as well. So that's exciting.
And many other traditions, I know that many of our buildings do ice cream kickoffs, 7th grade tours, freshman tours. We're starting to get into back to school night season and welcoming those families back in to be able to meet their teachers and meet the staff. So things are really starting to roll and kick off here in the district.
I'm going to also speak as a parent. Even though my children have graduated from high school, I can remember just many years as being a parent, and the prep of, while you're really excited they're going back to school, there's a lot of stress and a lot of work that lands on parents to get their kids back in school, whether it be physicals, sports registration, just getting all the paperwork done that I need to get my kid back in school, and then God forbid, the June school supplies at Walmart. I'm like, it's June. Why do you have the school supplies out already? But they did, and all the other people that support our schools. But school shopping for supplies can be really fun, exciting, but it also can be difficult for those families that may not be able to do that and purchase the things that kids need. So I just want to shout out, while it's exceptionally fun for a lot of families, for families that are in need of school supplies, I would encourage them to reach out to their PTAs, their school principals. There are so many resources in the community where people can find school supplies. I mean, we have so many local communities that do backpacks for kids, and whether that be churches or businesses and communities that partner. I know our Caring for Kids community is exceptionally strong in that. So I don't want any kid to feel like they don't have the supplies that they need, and to reach out for those resources.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great point. I know, personally, my kids come the end of July, they were pumped up and ready to go get their stuff. But again, that we want to be able to provide those supports in all those different situations when people need it. So appreciate the shout outs on those.
So just kind of as we wrap up this, I want to just a huge shout out to all of our staff members that support back to school and getting ready for our kids to walk in those first days. It takes a lot, and we appreciate all the staff members and the parents and even high school kids that are working behind the scenes, high school link crews, 6th grade leaders, 8th grade leaders that are helping support those schools to get ready for those first days of school.
5 days away.
5 days away.
It's hard to think about.
I feel like the summer has really kind of just flown by.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Well, so the first day of school, is coming up, as we mentioned, a couple days away. Obviously, we're excited to see all the students back in our classrooms, in our buildings, but we're also excited to share some of those experiences with you here on Shawnee Mission Mic'd Up throughout the year. So
let's talk real quick before we talk about our next episode about the theme for the year.
Yeah, so, I think Shine On. I think you ought to take the lead on it.
Yeah, so really it's about a time to shine, and we think this is an opportunity for everyone in our school district to shine. Students, parents, staff, really everybody can take that moment to shine, and most importantly, work to help kids shine, because when kids shine, adults shine. And so, and vice versa, really. And so it's really about supporting each other, building each other up, and having that moment to shine. So we're excited about that.
And we'll continue to see the One Shawnee Mission message out there along with the Time to Shine, correct?
Absolutely. So as we came through the pandemic, it was really, we know it was extremely tough on families, staff members, really everybody, not only the Shawnee Mission, the state of Kansas, but nationally. And so we felt like it was really important to talk about being one Shawnee Mission and supporting each other at all costs. So, we have 14 cities, we have 5 feeder patterns, makes us really unique as a school district, and so being one is so important. And so absolutely we're keeping that we're one Shawnee Mission, and it's our time to shine. So excited about that moving forward.
Yeah, I love to see people using those hashtags and on Twitter and on social media and really talking about the ways that our kids and our communities and our schools are shining throughout the 23-24 school year.
Right, yeah.
Hard to think about. So as I was talking about, we're going to, obviously, Shawnee Mission Mic'd Up, talking about all the great things throughout the school year. We're going to have new episodes of the show dropping every other week on Thursdays. And so, obviously, episode 2 is going to be a couple weeks away. Dr. Hubbard, can you give us any hints or ideas about what the next episode is going to be looking like? I know our listeners are going to want to know what do we have in store.
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it's going to be, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of things, or a few things to think about. So it's a new year. We have some new shiny places and spaces.
Okay.
I think people are going to be super excited to be there and talk to us about it. Okay. We're going to be not in the studio. Oh. We're going to be out and about.
I'm going on a field trip.
We're going on location.
Okay.
We are.
Right. My mind's turning.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Keep thinking. Stay tuned. We'll have it for you. But before we leave, we're going to leave you with a quote for the day, or a quote to hold on to until our next episode. And going right along with our theme from Jason Mraz, you can turn off the sun, but I'm still going to shine. And so I'm hopeful that moving into the start of the school year and the first several weeks, just keep in mind we want kids to shine, and we're going to hold that through the entire school year for the 23-24 time that we get to spend together. So
that's great.
Until next time, I want everyone to have an amazing start to the school year. And thanks for joining us, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great. See you guys all in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Higgins.